Hi, everyone. I'm Anna, Customer Success Manager at Aero.NextGen. For those who might not be familiar with us, Aero.NextGen is an aviation technology marketplace that connects airlines, MROs, and aviation organizations with digital solutions across the industry. Today, I'm joined by Mark Roboff from SkyThread. In this Tech Talk, we're going to explore a topic that's becoming increasingly important for airlines as the industry continues to digitize: data integrity as a safety and efficiency issue for airlines. Hi, Mark. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Anna. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, to start us off, when we talk about data integrity in aviation operations, what does that really mean beyond the traditional IT or compliance perspective?
It means, for instance, does the data that you have, is it real? Is it true? Right? As you know, aviation is a very paper-driven industry, very manual process, even today. So the data that exists in the different ERPs of the world and the different maintenance information systems of the world, in any system of record, whether that be from an OEM or from an MRO or from an airline, was oftentimes recorded from a paper source. And all these systems really more or less sit in silos, right? So you're relying on the fact that the information read and entered, right, is free of error. And that's not often, I should say, a guarantee.
Yeah,
So what SkyThread does is it connects all these disparate systems together, layering information on top of each other so that you get a very concrete, easy to validate history of a plane or of an engine or of, most critically, the parts on a plane or the parts on an engine. And because the aerospace life cycle is such long lived, and airplanes and parts go through so many different owners and go through so many different repair stations and are really touched by so many different hands throughout their life. We see that multiple systems from multiple actors record data about the same part. So if we can bring those systems together, have them confer that the data that they all have about the part agrees with each other, we can give confidence to that data being authentic, to being true, to being valid in a way that a single system couldn't possibly do.
that's interesting. And aviation is a safety critical industry where many
Mhm.
decisions depend on reliable operations data. And at what point does poor data integrity move from being just an operation inconvenience to becoming a real safety or operational risk for airlines?
It's hard to say what the red line is. Being vigilant and keeping vigilance on data correctness is paramount, right? We see several different vectors that can, if unchecked, create significant safety risk. We saw last year a major fraud scandal that disrupted the supply chain when you had a parts reseller out of the UK take old parts from unknown origins and pass them off as new with forged documentation, right? If you don't know the history of the part you're putting on an engine, especially if that's a life limited part, right, with certain wear conditions and certain repair conditions that have to be triple checked, that could create a huge safety issue. The only reason it didn't is because one airline got it's like it caught the problem, notified the industry. Another case we see is sometimes you have data that, through the hand-on, hand-off pass-through process of pools and borrows and buys and sells and repairs, sometimes data is recorded incorrectly. And again, if this is not caught and corrected, this could create a safety issue. If parts on wing, for instance, are said to be only 20,000 hours old in terms of flight hours, but are really 40 or 50 or 60,000 hours, and then there's a structural failure somewhere, right? that oftentimes is due to a problem in the recorded data. So
That's a really important point. So many airlines have invested heavily in digital tools and operation systems over the past decade. Yeah, we still hear that trust in data remains a challenge. Why do airlines still struggle to fully trust their data even after these investments?
well, there are a couple of reasons. So first and foremost, converting from a paper-based records system and paper-based operations to something that's digital is a major effort. It's a big expense, right? So putting together the right systems, tools, and processes to make sure that the data that you have recorded on paper is read correctly, is entered correctly, is managed correctly, is not trivial. And airlines and their suppliers, right, have to invest to make that transition, right, as they have been and continue to be over the last and next decades. So I'll say that as a longtime supplier to the industry, as a digital leader, as a digital consultant, that in the past helped promote this problem, is we've trained the industry that data is intrinsically precious, right? That the data that you're collecting is intrinsically valuable and is unique and is encapsulative of all your trade secrets, and that you can't really share it or use it. That narrative, I could say today, is false, right? It was a mistake for me and my friends at former companies that we've all worked at to push that narrative on this and on many industries. Data in and of itself is not valuable at rest, right? Insights are valuable. Validation is valuable. Traceability is valuable. But in order to do any of that, you have to be able to work with, and ultimately in this complex multi-party ecosystem, you have to be able to share data. If you're not sharing data, you're not getting value. You're not getting value out of your own data, right? Because an airline and its operations and the equipment that they run is so complex that no one entity has enough data, has enough perspective or view on that data to be able to move the needle. Only when, right, we're really working in tandem can we do that. I think that as the industry shifts to a better posture of integrating data and sharing data, right, will suddenly people find it much easier to work with data. And I think the industry will then get much more value out of the data that they maintain.
Yeah. So operational data is often spread across multiple systems, organizations, and stakeholders. How does SkyThread helps moving from fragmented records towards a single trusted source of operational truth?
So what SkyThread does is it takes data that that you have, let's say, in your ERP or maintenance information system, and it cross-references the data in that system with data that SkyThread has about the same aircraft, about the same engines, about the same assets, about the same parts that might be supplied by the original OEM or by a previous owner or by an MRO who did a repair during a prior repair cycle. And SkyThread is effectively filling in digitally, that whole part history for every part that gets put on every asset, that gets put on every engine, and that gets put on every aircraft. So filling in the gaps, filling in the information over time provides a trusted narrative structure of what parts are where, what their life cycles are, what their hours since new are, or hours since installed are, what their hours or cycles since new or cycles since installed are, and then secondly, by cross-referencing your data about a part with my data about a part, with the OEM's data about a part. If there are any discrepancies in any one system, let's say your serial number, someone put in an L instead of a 1, common issue, or someone put in the wrong cycle and hour data, which I'll show you in the demo, then you'll see that discrepancy exists. We can highlight that, and then notify the responsible parties to fix the discrepancy, right? Oftentimes with data, in fact, I wouldn't say always with data. I mean, the central challenge with data is you don't know what you don't know. Fixing an error is not a hard thing to do, not at all. Finding what needs to be fixed is the rub. That's what SkyThread really helps solve for.
That's great. It really helps the industry, right?
Yeah.
And looking ahead, if data integrity becomes the foundation of the digital ecosystem, what changes operationally for airlines?
A lot, right? So right now we're looking at quarantine times. We're looking at turnaround times. Right? Airlines that manage complex inventory, what we see with SkyThread is a immediate ability to take parts that would typically spend 8 days, 9 days, several weeks even in quarantine and eliminate that entirely. We see an airline and its suppliers with its suppliers in its supply chain get better service, right? By communicating data faster, by communicating more complete data between an airline and its partners, we see faster turnaround time, right? Sometimes, it's often you'll have an MRO receive a part. It's missing some key data. So before they can do that repair, again, they have to go hunt for data. That can take, again, weeks, right? And it's very costly.
Yeah.
So while that part is just sitting there, right? People are hunting for data. If we supply that data in advance of the part even arriving at the repair station, right? That turnaround time is now weeks faster. When you have pool systems, like when you have rotable pools, when you have warranty programs with advanced RMAs, such that I'm an airline, I don't really necessarily care, how long a component is out for repair because I've already received a replacement component before I ship the broken component out. Right now it's a problem for the pool owner to be able to go and track and gather all of that, right, missing repair inventory.
Yeah.
Right, getting all of that information together. I mean, we see asset cleanups in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and then overall higher level values exist as well, or I should say higher level benefits exist as well. When you have an airline and its suppliers diligently tracking and tracing the parts of their aircraft, all the data, all the life cycle information, especially if that aircraft is leased, right, at the end of the day, there's a higher book value to that aircraft. Fewer parts are going to be thrown away because of gaps in data, that are otherwise perfectly serviceable parts. Fewer teardowns will need to happen. The high cost in an asset transfer or in a lease return, much of which is data preparation and data management, goes away with the push of a button, right? So while these are less frequent events, they're very, very impactful from an ROI and from a value prop perspective when SkyThread is behind the scenes, keeping all data organized and in check.
Hey, thank you again for joining me and sharing those insights today, Mark. And thank you everyone for watching. If you'd like to learn more about solutions like SkyThread and many others aviation technology providers, you can explore them on the Aero.NextGen marketplace. And thank you again, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.